Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Because today, the 8th of March, is International Women's Day, I'm going to be doing a video form of a blog post which I did last year on this same exact date about one of my favorite famous ancestors I've discovered. I do plan, hopefully, in future to do some videos about my genealogy if you guys are more interested in the details of the deep dive research I've been doing over the past 4 or so years, including verified famous ancestors. I've discovered it's a really, really wonderful subject if you're at all interested in genealogy, and I do look forward to sharing if anybody is interested. So this post was called "Meet My Extraordinary Foremother, Queen Margaret of Scotland." And so obviously, as I mentioned, to mark International Women's Day, I was shining the spotlight on my 29 great-grandmother, Queen St. Margaret of Scotland. I wish more people knew about her, since she was an extraordinary queen consort and medieval woman. She was more than just, someone who passively wore a crown. She was so much more than just like a queen consort, just like a wonderful, empowering, inspiring, famous woman in her own right. Margaret was born Princess of Wessex in Hungary, circa 1045, to Prince Edward the Exile and Princess Agatha. The family returned to England in 1057, but their return wasn't to be happy or long-lived. Edward passed away immediately after their arrival, and then came the Norman invasion and occupation of 1066. In 1067, Margaret's family were shipwrecked in Scotland while attempting to sail to continental Europe. King Malcolm III of Scotland, who lived from around the 26th of March of 1031 to 13th of November 1093, Margaret's future husband warmly welcomed them to his beautiful, proud country and gave them refuge. However, sources differ on just when Malcolm and Margaret first met. Some people believe they might have met even before the shipwreck, or at least, not immediately before their marriage, or, just different things, because unfortunately when it comes to particularly medieval history, when people didn't always record things exactly the way we do now, we can only guess sometimes. For example, oh, this was possible, or this was probable, or this probably didn't happen, or maybe this happened. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's highly unlikely, or maybe it did happen and we just will never know for sure. So you obviously have to, keep an open mind and take some stories and alleged dates and names and such with a dump truck of salt. But obviously we can verify some things, and they obviously did get married in, I believe, 1070. Malcolm, a widower with 2 sons, was happy for the chance to marry one of the few remaining members of the Anglo-Saxon royal family. He and Margaret wed in 1070, and they had 8 kids, 6 boys and 2 girls. Amazingly, they all survived childhood. Their youngest child, King David I of Scotland, is my direct ancestor. Like my 36th great-grandpap, King Alfred the Great of England, who is Margaret's 5 great-grandpap, no one expected he'd inherit the throne and continue the dynasty through his line. Dark horses should never be discounted. And Queen Margaret and Malcolm III, that David wasn't their only son who inherited the throne. They also had Edgar was King of Scotland first, and then their next son after him, Alexander the First, and then finally King David. So and he, the first one of their sons to rule, Edgar, he wasn't even the firstborn son, but various things happened, and not all their sons came to the throne, not because they died before they would have reached the age of majority. It's just sometimes that was just how inheritance laws worked out in those days. So it's really cool. She didn't give birth to just one king. She gave birth to 3 kings, including one king who became my direct ancestor. As queen consort of Scotland, Margaret undertook many religious reforms and charitable works. Though Malcolm wasn't religious at all, he was completely accepting of her piety and religious reforms. Margaret's faith had a great civilizing influence on him, and she read her illiterate husband stories from the Bible. He admired and respected her faith so much, he had her books decorated in silver and gold. One of these books, an illustrated pocket gospel, is now in Oxford University's Bodleian Library. Margaret created ferries for pilgrims, invited Benedictines to establish a monastery in the town of Dunfermline, served orphans and the poor before she ate every single day, jump-started the restoration of Iona Abbey, washed the feet of the poor, did a lot of religious embroidery, and helped with the release of fellow English exiles being held in Norman serfdom. She spent much of the rest of her time praying and reading devotional works. Though Margaret wasn't queen in her own right, she did far more than just passively wear a crown like many other queen consorts. Her fine example of piety, charity, and just rulership were not only a big influence upon King Malcolm III, but upon their son David. David was such an exemplary ruler, one of the finest in Scottish history. His reign is known as the Davidian Revolution. Margaret and Malcolm's marriage was also noteworthy for the Middle Ages. Over time, they grew to deeply love one another, although obviously this was not a love match. Most marriages in that day and age, like couldn't be. You know, you were married to whomever, like, you were told to marry for the sake of, like, a family peace or a dynastic alliance and such. It was really, really rare to marry for love in those days, but sometimes many people did, like, grow in love, which in many cases can be, like, a deeper, more, like, meaningful, serious bond than when you just fall in love because you have a base of friendship and more things in common than just saying, oh, this person has a rockin' bod, or like this person has a beautiful or handsome face. You like grow to love that person for really, really deep, serious reasons that keep the home fires burning long after your looks have faded. And while Malcolm never became religious himself, he didn't have any problems with Margaret's piety or religious reforms. Successful relationships require compromise and respecting one another's differences. I'm so proud to be descended from Queen Margaret. And she was canonized in 1250, so she's been a saint for a very, very long time. This wasn't just recent. So, like, I know this post isn't, like, very long or detailed at all. I am planning a future blog post, which maybe I will make into a video, again, with a lot more detail about Margaret's life. This is just, like a basic overview and such. I have looked up if there are any books about her. There are a number, but unfortunately they all appear to be out of print, like really, really ridiculously overpriced, like some over $100, or they're really, really short. They're like not really books at all, more like really, really like long pamphlets and such. And I really do hope someday in the future there will be like a serious biography of her that stays in print. And I am also thinking of possibly someday in future writing a historical novel from Margaret's point of view about her, just like I'm planning a future novel about my 36th great grandpap, King Alfred the Great. So I also, one of the things I admire about her, like can relate to, her life didn't really seem to be unfolding the way it was supposed to. Like she was born in exile instead of a princess in her homeland. And then like when they finally were able to get out of exile and come home, they weren't able to stay long. And her father passed away. And like once they were, finally settled back in England, they had to leave again because the Normans invaded and occupied the country. And then when they were like fleeing, they were shipwrecked in a different country. So sometimes when you don't know where your life is going to head, fate kind of like intervenes and sends you on the exact path you were meant to go. It's kind of like the chorus line in the George Harrison song, "Any road, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there." And there's also a proverb, a saying in Hebrew, "Change your place, change your fortune." So like if you move to another place, you're going to, change your luck and things will go much, much better for you in future. And I really do hope that will unfold in my own life just the way it did for Queen Margaret's life. Margaret died at the age of 50 years old, 3 days after the death of her husband and her eldest son in battle, like supposedly of a broken heart. And she was buried before the high altar in Dunfermline Abbey in Fife, Scotland. And, because she was made a saint, her body and her husband's body, they were exhumed and put in a new shrine in the abbey. And then I know this sounds really kind of gruesome, particularly me who has like a really aversion to seeing decapitated heads. That's a long story, some like creepy movies I've seen. Queen Mary of Scots in 1560, she had Margaret's head taken to Edinburgh Castle as a relic to assist her in childbirth. And then later in 1597, Margaret's head ended up with the Jesuits at the Scots College in Douai, France. I hope I pronounced that right, but during the French Revolution, it was lost. And then later, King Philip of Spain had other remains of Margaret and Malcolm sent to the Escorial Palace in Madrid, but we don't know where their remains are currently. Originally and traditionally, St. Margaret's feast day was the 10th of June because it was the birth date of the son of James VII of Scotland and James II of England. He ruled both of them, but had obviously different Roman numerals for each. But when the Catholic calendar was revived in 1969, the 16th of November was suddenly free, and St. Margaret's feast day was moved to that day, the date of her death, and that was what it had always been observed in Scotland. But there are some like traditionalist, like pre-Vatican II Catholics who still continue to celebrate her feast day on the 10th of June. And she's also a saint in the Anglican Church and in the Church of England, and there are many like schools and such named after her. She was like a really wonderful, amazing, inspiring woman. And if I am blessed with a child before time runs out and I have a daughter, I would really much like to name her Margaret, the Hebrew form of Margaret, after my amazing Foremother. I know I'm like in my 40s now, and like there's time's kind of running out. Probably I have less than 10 years, unfortunately, to have a biological child. But I had new hope for having a baby at my age, despite everything, when I found out a few years ago that my three greats grandmother Antonia, who is Italian, she gave birth to her only child, my great great grandmother Josephine Maria Giuseppe Maria, I believe her birth name was, when she was 47 years old. And obviously this was like way before IVF existed. So like God willing, hopefully maybe I too will like finally have a baby, hopefully with a husband, and not like having to go to like artificial insemination as a single mom by choice before time runs out. And if that is a girl, I would name her Margaret after my wonderful ancestor. And I'm really sorry if I have been rambling a bit. That often tends to happen when I go off of script. So thank you guys very much for watching to the end. I really would appreciate, like more like comments. I mean, I could have 1 million subscribers and it wouldn't really like mean like diddly squat if like not a lot of people are actually, corresponding with me in the comments box. I want to get to know my subscribers and people who are watching my videos, because then I'll feel like, I'm not wasting my time and such. And I really do want to hope to build a bigger subscriber base over this like coming year with like people like commenting, sharing, liking, and subscribing, so I can feel like I'm actually making a lot more friends on here. I do really want to build a community of people I really like and know and respect, and hopefully maybe I can do some collaborations with some friends in future if I have a big enough like audience base who are interested in my content. So thank you guys very much for watching till the end. Most of my videos this month will probably be for the middle grade March books I've been reading. And hopefully I will make at least a few friends by the end of the month from participating in that readathon, but if not, at least I'm reading the books and making the videos for my own enjoyment. So thank you guys again very much for watching. See you very soon. Thanks. Bye.